Welcome. We're so glad you're here. You are about to witness a special presentation of the 7 last words of Jesus, shared by 7 dynamic women of faith, each bringing their own unique voice and perspective to the cross of Christ. At the top of each hour, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., we will share one of the last words spoken by Jesus to commemorate the hours that he hung on the cross for us. Now, as you're watching, we encourage you to like this live stream. Comment with your thoughts, your reflections, or even a simple amen. And also share this event with your friends and families so others can be blessed too. We're starting in 1 minute and 45 seconds. So go grab something to drink and get ready for a dynamic word that's going to inspire you and help you along your way. Alice Newsome opens our series with a powerful reflection on forgiveness. As Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." My assignment is Luke 23:34, which reads, "Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots." This verse takes us to the scene of the cross. To help us identify them, we're going to take a look at Jesus' journey to Calvary. After eating what we know as the Lord's Supper, Jesus and his disciples went to the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus had a conversation with the disciples and asked them to watch and pray as he went further into the garden for some alone time with God. Jesus' burden was very heavy, and he had to be real with God. He had to talk about all his concerns, and it wasn't going to be pretty. Jesus was human, and he knew that he might be snotting and crying and begging and pleading and asking God over and over and over again for the same thing. Jesus prayed an agonizing and stressful prayer until he was empowered enough to say, "God, thy will be done." And so it began. Judas came with the soldiers and betrayed Jesus with a kiss on the cheek. A fight broke out in the garden. The disciples fought the soldiers, and Peter cut off Malchus's ear. But Jesus picked up that ear, and he put it back in place. The soldiers won the fight. They arrested Jesus, and the disciples ran away. The soldiers took Jesus to the governor's mansion to stand trial. Pilate, the Roman governor, asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "It is as you say." False witnesses testified against Jesus. The leading priests and elders made their accusations against him, but Jesus said absolutely nothing. It was the governor's custom during the Passover celebration to release one prisoner to the crowd, anyone they wanted to pardon. So this year's choice was between Barabbas, a murderer, and Jesus. The next morning, as the crowds gathered before Pilate, he asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus?" The church leaders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas to be released and Jesus to be crucified. Pilate was no fool. He knew the religious leaders arrested Jesus because they were jealous. The next day, Pilate asked the question again, "Which of these two do you want me to release to you?" The crowd shouted back, "Barabbas!" Pilate responded, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who's called the Messiah?" And they shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate released Barabbas to them, and then he ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip and turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. Jesus was beaten repeatedly. In Matthew 26, the Bible said they spit in his face and they struck him with their fist, and Jesus' back was whipped until it was raw. All the bones were out of socket, out of joint, and a crown of thorns was placed on his scalp, and blood covered his face like snow covers a mountaintop. His eyes were black and blue and bloody. Jesus suffered the worst kind of police brutality in history. While hanging there on the cross in extreme pain, Jesus peered through those bloodshot eyes and he saw the soldiers who arrested him, whipped him, and had no mercy. The same ones who placed the crown of thorns on his head were now down there throwing dice for his clothes. He saw the jealous religious leaders and the liars in the crowd whose words condemned him to death. He may have even seen a disciple or two who deserted him. They may have been off in the distance. Through those bloodshot eyes, Jesus looked at the crowd of people gathering around him to witness his death. And what did Jesus see? He saw sheep. Sheep who had lost their way and gone astray. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, had pity on his sheep, and he prayed. Jesus loved the sheep so much, he approached God on their behalf, and he said, "Father, forgive." Being human, I said, "What, Jesus? Forgive? You're asking God to forgive them? But they deserted you. They lied on you. They beat you until you hardly looked like a man hanging there on the tree. Your eyes were black and blue and bloody and red and swollen all over, and the skin on your back was split open and raw. How could you ask God to forgive them? They didn't apologize. They didn't ask for forgiveness, and they didn't even seem like they were sorry for what they did to you. And given the opportunity, I'd say they would probably do it again. But Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive them," because he loved them. Jesus knew the ugliness of sin, hatred, bigotry, envy, lying, lust, cheating, rage, murder, and on and on. And all of the evils that are in the world, Jesus came to defeat with love. This is the love that is beyond human comprehension. This is God love. Not that we love God, but that God loved us. And he sent Jesus to take away our sin. To forgive means to let go of hurt and resentment and the desire for revenge that you want to take on those who wronged you. Forgiveness means to let it go. Jesus looked out over the crowd of haters, abusers, liars, deserters, and he loved them. And he let it all go. Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Thanks for watching. Tune in for the next saying of Christ at 10 a.m. with Marlena Leary.